I've invested over $575,000 US dollars on mentors, and I'm going to reveal exactly what I learned. A couple of them were amazing that led me to getting my $50 million trophy and generating over $125 million in sales in just a few years. A few of them were absolutely terrible, and I'll show you exactly what I learned from the good ones and how to avoid the bad ones as well. Okay, so let's get into my very first one. And if you are a entrepreneur that's just starting out, or even if you're an experienced entrepreneur, this $10 book changed my life because I learned this one concept of burning desire. In order for you to actually turn ore into gold, you need to be burning at a certain temperature. And this book has this concept called the burning desire. And you just have to crank up the temperature to a certain level so that you could actually turn ore into gold. And that's what business requires. That was the one concept in Think and Grow Rich. And once I understood that and I wanted to start my own very first business, keep in mind, I was an investment banker. I was making six figures right out of university. And I left that to start a brand new business from scratch. So why did I do that? Obviously, because even 100K after taxes, you don't make that much money. So I went to this one event. I paid $500 for an event, and I met two guys, Andrew and Brock. And these two guys mentored me. One of them cost me nothing. He just felt bad for how terribly I was doing in my life. When I went to that event, I slept in a bunk bed at a hostel I paid $20 for. And I was staying at this cheap hostel in San Diego. And he was making over 100K. He's like, Abdul, you're here. I'm going to help you. I'm going to give back. God's given me enough. I'm going to do the same for you. Okay, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to just give back. And he taught me this one concept that gives me immense clarity in a sea of doubt. And if you apply this concept, whether you're just starting out or you are someone making $1 million a year and you're launching new projects within your company, this can help you out so much. So he asked me the question, Abdul, how much money do you want to make? And I said, hey, Andrew, I want to get to $100,000 a month. And he said, on average, how much does a client pay for digital marketing services? Andrew, I don't know. Andrew was like, well, I know because I'm already making 100K from my digital marketing agency. The average client that you're going to land in the beginning is going to pay you about $3,000 a month. So we did the math. How many clients do I need to get to 100K a month? I need 33 clients. So now let's work that backwards. Let's say 30 clients gets me to 100K MRR, recurring income. Wouldn't that be tasty? Well, in a sea of doubt, you follow the law of average. The average client pays you $3,000 a month. The average close rate industry when someone is there on a Zoom call is about 15% close rate. The average number of times people even show up to the Zoom call is about 50% show up rate. A lot of people are just going to ghost you. That's the name of the game. Don't get mad at the game. Learn to play it. Be a good player. So 50% is the show up rate, 15% is the close rate, and the average person pays $3K a month. You do the math. I just need 200 people to show up if I've got a 15% close rate for a $3K a month offer. I just need 400 appointments if only 50 people are going to show up. So when you reverse engineer, now my goal became crystal clear. I realized all of a sudden I had to just make more offers to more people, and I needed 200 people, and for that I needed 400 people. So I got into it and I started growing my business fast. But one thing needed to happen in order for me to actually do this. You see, so Andrew was just helping me out of the goodness of his heart. There was another guy, Brock. He actually had a proper program and course. He was teaching people search engine optimization and how to actually follow through on your services with the clients I was gonna start landing. So I paid Brock $5,000, and it was very difficult for me to pay that amount because I barely had any money saved up. So I paid Brock some money, and at that time Brock had 100 students. After about a year or so, Brock had 5,000 students, and guess who was his number one student? This guy. So why and how did that happen? Well, I followed the law of averages that I learned from Andrew. But But Brock also taught me something that changed the game for me. It opened my mindset up. And if you apply this, money will come to you a lot fast. He told me, don't get mad at your money. What does that mean? Don't get mad at your money, Abdul, and be a problem solver. You see, the biggest problem solvers actually make the most amount of money. What's the difference between you and Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk is solving bigger problems for more people than you are and I am. So how did I apply that in my first ever successful business, which was the agency? I was doing digital marketing services for local business clients, right? So how did that help me? Well, I would have these local business owners like dentists, lawyers that I would sell digital marketing service for. But once in a while, I would get a client that did not fit that template. And what did I do? Did I get mad at my money and say, hey, listen, I don't work with people like you? What did I do? No. I said, okay, what do you need solved? Okay, cool. I'll solve that problem for you, because if I don't, you won't find someone most likely for another month or two, and this problem will continue persisting. So there was a local Amazon e-commerce company. They had their product in Costco, but they were not on Amazon. They needed someone to take pictures of their product, put it on Amazon, and run PPC campaigns. And what did I do? I brokered a deal. They paid me $5,000 a month plus percentage of sales, a growth partnership. And after a couple of months, I was getting paid $25,000 per quarter by that client. So how did I fulfill? I hired a guy on Upwork, a freelancer website, and I paid him $500 a month. And I was just a problem solver. I middleman the deal. They were very happy with the results, and they paid me good money for it. So the best problem solvers make the most amount of money. I also learned another skill from Brock, but this one cost me an arm and a leg. And you have to learn the same, especially when you're selling B2C. So now I was Brock's top student, and I asked Brock, I'm like, hey, you're very good at selling courses. You sold 5,000 people. I don't know how you did it. Why don't you teach me? He said, okay, cool. I'll teach you. Just, I need half of your profits. I said, okay, let's do that. And so we did a deal, joint venture agreement, and I paid him $50,000. We did a promo, and we made some money in the beginning. And the lesson I learned from Brock is B2C sales are completely different. B2C high ticket sales are completely different from selling B2B to business owners. B2C is completely different. So I learned how to sell with Brock there. But the bigger lessons I learned was that you can be caught up in a pretty tough situation even with a mentor. So that was the first lesson I learned from Brock, but I decided to invest with him again. I asked Brock, well, you've sold 5,000 people into your online program. How did you do that? I now have a successful agency. I was a top student out of 5,000 people, and I did things a little bit differently from Brock. You see, Brock's students were all selling SEO, which takes months to deliver on a service. I got results for clients very quickly because I ran ads. I ran Google ads and Facebook ads, and none of his students were doing that. So I wanted to launch a program that actually teach people how to get results really, really quickly. Now, Brock didn't want me doing it himself, and I also would have loved Brock's help. So Brock, after much persistence saying, hey, he's going to help me out in a big way, I decided to pay Brock 50% and ended up paying him $50,000 because after the first initial sales, Brock actually didn't have any marketing skill sets and we weren't making any more sales. So I had to part ways with Brock. He didn't like it, obviously, but I had to learn marketing from someone else. So what did I do? Well, I bought some $10, $20 books from Dan Kennedy, but what made the most difference for me was investing in this guy we'll call Leo. And Leo changed the game for me. I went from making around $50,000 a month to doing $1 million a month. And if you pay attention, you can do the exact same thing. So Leo taught me the concept of channel arbitrage. Okay, so channel arbitrage is where when there's a new channel that has introduced advertising, there's not enough advertisers there. And so for the same number of quality impressions, you will get more views than you would on an older channel. So everyone was on Facebook at that time, and everyone was like struggling to make it on Facebook, whereas YouTube was new. Only Ty Lopez had figured it out. So Leo taught me about channel arbitrage through YouTube, and YouTube has some of the best audience. You right now are watching this on YouTube, so I know you're good. Now, Leo, how much did I pay him? $180,000, and every dollar was worth it because we went to $1 million a month, right? And I paid him over the year, so around $15K a month, and we just became one of the biggest advertisers on YouTube. We had over 100 million views. Now, what happened next? Being a very loyal guy, I'm like, Leo, love what you're doing. Let's do this again. I ended up investing in Leo again for something completely different. But before I get into that, let me tell you, because the money was flowing and we were just banking like one of the biggest advertisers in the space and making a good return on investment, I had money to invest. So I bought into a mastermind that taught people how to invest and that sourced the best deals for $50,000. $50,000 for something I could have learned in a Benjamin Franklin book. That's what created Warren Buffett. But I decided to invest in some online guru, and to be honest, that investment was crap. Didn't get much value out of it. I also invested into a $25,000 e-commerce mastermind, also garbage, but great network. I met 2 or 3 people in these masterminds that led me to making millions of dollars, and I got also a piece of advice from a couple of billionaires that resonated with this as well. Grant Cardone and someone called Owen in Vancouver, and I'll tell you more about later on as well. So what happened with Leo? After he paid 180, I made millions of dollars, and I decided to invest in Leo again. And this time, Leo said, hey, Abdul, you've got some money to invest. I've been tinkering with all these online trading and blah blah blah, and it only takes 1 or 2 trades a day, and you'll turn your 1 million into $10 million with 2 hours a day, and you don't have to manage anyone, Abdul. You don't have to manage anyone at all. This system will give you these indicators and it'll buzz when it's time for you to make a trade, and you'll make so much money. Here, look at all my screenshots of making money. One thing he didn't show me were all the screenshots that weren't making money, and that's what happened with me. Not only did I lose $120,000, Leo, I love you, bro, but why did you do this to me after we had such a good thing going? So yeah, we lost money on investing and also lost $120,000, and that ended up in a poor relationship afterwards as well. So that was that. After that, I decided, so you're seeing some patterns here already. I invested in Brock. First investment was great. Second investment was also good, but then it had to stop because he just wanted 50% of what I've made for the rest of my life. But I had to politely deny that and say, hey, I know you've helped a lending hand in making me who I am today, but can't just have 50% of me forever, right? And over here with Leo, the second time around wasn't as good as the first time around. It's kind of like a series. The first series is usually the best. Brock taught me sales, which is very like one-to-one. Leo taught me more about marketing and scaling and media buying, and that amplified the results that I was getting. The third piece I needed was systems, right? I had a bad guru here. I was hoping to learn from this $25,000 investments about like having solid fulfillment. So I ended up investing in this guy called Dan Rowe, a lot of money, $75,000 for 6 months. And with Dan, I learned about systems and I learned about setting up the team the right way. So the biggest takeaway is when you go out to build a bridge, how you set up the bridge is the most important piece. If you have a certain amount of budget, you have to spend all your time on the setup, on the cost projections, on thinking about the inflation, thinking about all this. Take time to set up the deal, because after the bridge is half done and you're 70% out of your money, you're going to have a very, very difficult time in completing the bridge at budget. It's just next to impossible. So take your time on the setup, set up the team the right way, create incentives the right way, create incentives for the producers, create the right incentives for the ops team so that you can scale properly. And also not to give titles, big titles to people that you just hired. So for example, if you're going to hire an accountant into your company, do not call them a CFO right off the bat, because then a couple months down the road, you're going to have to pay CFO salary. Do not call them VP of finance. Just call them an accountant. Call them a junior finance person. Call them a junior role and have them work towards the title. So that was the big takeaway with Dan Rowe. And then we renewed the contract with Dan, and that again, after 6 months, wasn't the best. So the pattern that came over and over again is you get the most value out of your mentor, your guru, or even a top level executives in the first 6 months or so. And when you have internal hires, you'll get most of your value in the first year. And then after that, there would be declining returns on that person, which is why in big companies, CEOs churn all the time. Every 2 years or so, there's a new CEO that comes in to run the company to take it to the next stage. Then as we grew, we became a multi-million-dollar company. I had these billionaire mentors, and guess how much they charged me? Zero, zilch. So Grant Cardone invited me and top 50 other entrepreneurs as well for a couple of weekends. He took us around his helicopter in South Florida, and Grant Cardone said these things that were super helpful, especially for entrepreneurs that are at like $1 million a year and they want to get to like 50 million a year or more. So he said your future is based on the people you meet. And if you're just meeting people that are making 100K a year, you won't be able to think in that 8-figure level. The second piece of get money, move it into an asset, feel broke, repeat. This is such golden advice. If you make money and you just have it sitting in your savings account, you're going to feel so comfortable, and you're just going to milk it for like 5 years or how many years you can milk it for. And for some people, they have a big payoff when they're 25 or 30 years old and they don't have to work for 2 decades. And when they're 50 years old, they realize, oh man, I gotta go back to work. And now you're 50 years old, you're older, and you're not really an entrepreneur anymore. You used to be 20 years ago, and now you have to go back into the game. Man, that's tough. So make money, move it into long-term assets, and feel broke again. So you have to put in the work and keep doing that over and over again. And you'll amass so much wealth and you'll get so good at what you do that after a decade, you're going to look back at it and be like, oh, that was one of the smartest things I ever did. Grant Cardone also said, I gave up being the sales training guy and I went from 5 million a year to 150 million a year when I added marketing to the mix. Remember, that's what happened to me as well. I went to $1 million a month when I got better at marketing. But when he expanded his scope and he started talking about marketing and real estate, he went from 5 million a year to 150. Has to do with your TAM. If you want to go further, you've got to give up something, and usually something comfortable. Again, it goes back to this, right? You feeling broke. Imagine being worth over $100 million in Grant Cardone's case, and you feel broke because you need to generate cash, and that's a very uncomfortable thing to do. So usually that's where you're peaked out. You're feeling comfortable, and you have to give that up in order to get to the next level. That's a sacrifice you have to make, and that were some unbelievable tips I got from Grant Cardone. Owen, local billionaire in Vancouver, super generous with his time. He meets us here and there, and he most recently for 3 hours. And couple of things that really stood out with Owen is last time we were with him, he got 20 calls in the 3 hours he was with us, and he only picked up 2. One was from his father, and the other call was from his wife. Family first, you don't have to trade your soul if you want to make it. You don't have to do that. And it's all about the long term, right? There was one here, I actually didn't write this down, but this is the biggest one. People severely underestimate what you can do in 10 years. Google just used to be a directory company, and now it's more powerful than nations. So build out into the long term. this is what Owen was saying. Whenever he made money, he reinvested, and he felt broke many years. But he became a billionaire because of that over time as well. So these were the lessons I have learned after investing $575,000. As you could see, these lessons were well worth it. You're not gonna have 100% success rate with every single investment, but the key is to keep investing, because investing in knowledge is one of the greatest arbitrage opportunities in our time, to save us time, to shrink time, to get to the result we want. And also with mentors, the first 6 months is usually the best ROI on them. After that, not that much. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully I saved you more than $500,000.